Welcome back to another episode of the Wild Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Fennig, and this is your space to learn more about the mind-body connection with strategies to connect to your innate wisdom so you can unleash the powerful, confident woman you're meant to be. Today's episode is sponsored by the Wild Wisdom Book Club. Next up, we're reading The Wild Feminine by Tammy, one of my most favorite books, and we'll gather virtually to practice and discuss. The next series begins soon, so go to alyssafennig.com/book club to learn more and join us for the fun. Hi there, everyone. It's Alyssa. I'm so excited for my guest today, Dr. Melissa Laborsky. We're going to talk Qigong, Chinese medicine, and all kinds of amazing things in Eastern medicine and energetic things. So welcome, Melissa.
Hi, good to be here.
Excited. So I'd like to start out just telling our listeners a little bit about your background, how you got into this. So if you want to share a little synopsis of your story, would be great.
Sure. So my original training was in family medicine. I went to IU, so I was very, very traditionally minded. And then some way, somehow, I ended up in a residency that was mostly DOs. So I didn't even have a concept of what that was, and I was very curious, open to seeing a slightly different path from my traditional path. Started to open up a little bit just conceptually with that. But what really created the biggest shift for me was about 12 years ago. I had an experience in my own life where I could no longer deny that the mind and body were separate. They were completely connected. I was experiencing it within my own life. And then it changed the way that I started to see my patients and the different things that they were presenting with. And I started just speaking to them differently. And, if you're having these migraines every day at a certain time, what is going on? Mm-hmm. So there's, seeing the patterns. So the first step out of the traditional box that I took after that was mind-body medicine. So I studied that with Dr. James Gordon, became certified, felt like, okay, this is great, but I still did not feel like I had the complete package, and I didn't know how I was going to move forward with that. It also happened at that time I had left Indiana and was living out on the East Coast, and my husband's aunt was a student of Qigong with a master in New York, and he was just starting a training program for really geared towards physicians and acupuncturists in energy medicine. Mm. And I took the information, and at that point it was like, wow, this is a huge leap. I knew nothing about Chinese medicine, nothing about energy. I had no idea what this whole Qigong thing was going to be all about. But I trusted my intuition. I did not throw away that information, and it was about 2 weeks later, looking for the trash and recycling information for the community, that flyer fell out. That was 10 years ago. I did that training in Tao of Medical Qigong, and it completely shifted my whole paradigm and understanding of all of health, healing, and medicine. Mm-hmm. So the key with the Tao of Medical Qigong is the concept that there is no disease or illness. There's only undiscovered purpose. Mm-hmm. And when I began to receive that message, it flipped my whole way of seeing everything in terms of the way the body shows up with different symptoms. They're all a message. Mm-hmm. They're all guiding us towards, deeper levels of healing and awakening.
Mm-hmm. As a yoga therapist, I totally agree and understand that. Having worked in the hospitals here in Indianapolis, that's what really verified it for me. Was I look at the world a completely different way. So mm-hmm. It's nice hearing you say that did you say the Tao of Medical Qigong? Or
yes.
Okay, everything just kind of flipped for you, because I think that's really what sometimes people don't understand, is that practitioner like yourself has an entirely different way of looking at the world, looking at disease, looking at symptoms, looking at whatever.
Yes.
And that's what people need. Mm-hmm. Not just chasing symptoms or Band-Aids and sort of that, but that whole, it's not even integrative medicine, it's more than that. It's a mindset shift.
Absolutely. It's looking at every single symptom, every single life experience that you have as being a gift and being an opportunity. Mm-hmm. So rather than feeling like, the world is scary, or there's so much that you need to worry about. I mean, the truth is you're on this journey and you are creating it all the time, and the signs are within and all around you. So my practice really becomes about how can you fine-tune this instrument for tuning into all of that.
Yes, I love that. So can you share more about Qigong? I know because I've taken your Qigong course and I love it.
Yes.
Even specifically Qigong, what that is, and the Dragon's Way.
Sure. So Qigong is Chinese energy exercise, and these exercises were discovered by ancient masters over 10,000 years ago. So through movement of their own bodies, because the body is an energy grid, the meridian system, they were able to feel how that energy grid was connected with everything internally in terms of organ function, in terms of emotion, and also in terms of connecting that energy grid to all of the universe and nature and the change of seasons and all of that. So what the Qigong energy exercise actually is it's meridian energy stretches. So you're opening the energy in the meridians through specific movements. So most Qigong exercises will have movements that are about opening the meridian flow using different postures. And then there's a final standing posture. So one way you can think about this is if we are these energy grids, we want to plug that grid in and try to download as much wisdom, as much energy from around us. So that's what the standing postures are all about. There are many, many, many different forms of Qigong, and it's becoming quite popular. So it's important. One of the things that I really feel is valuable is to help people to understand what is the difference between some of these forms.
Sure.
In general, there are forms that are taught, like the energy in the practice is taught very specifically by the form. So you have to perform the form to a perfect structure in order to get benefit from the form. And then there are forms that have a very, very strong lineage. So they've been passed down from master to master to master. So through the structure of the form, there is an energy message that's passed along. So even if your form isn't quite perfect, you do your best to try to align. But even if it's not quite perfect, you get significant benefit from doing the practice. So one of the reasons why Dragon's Way Qigong is as powerful as it is because it is a form of Qigong that's been passed through a very strong lineage that has been dated back to Lao Tzu, who wrote the Tao Te Ching, so an ancient Taoist master, and also Chuang Tzu, so 15,000 BC. So the message that's embodied in the practice goes so far beyond just basic functional shifts that you're making. And you're making incredible shifts energetically just by opening the flow. Wu Ming Qigong is where Dragon's Way Qigong comes from, and that translates to living from the heart space. So even someone who may not have a spiritual opening yet to understanding what that means, just by going through and doing these movements in the practice, it takes you there. At the very least, it quiets your mind, but at the highest level, it just opens you up to awakening your intuition and your connection with Tao, with all that is.
Yeah, and I think that's important. It's a lot of people have lost that connection to intuition, especially most of our listeners are women. I work with women mostly. Nothing wrong with men, it just seems to be who I work with. But it's just that loss of intuition and knowing who we are. And I think practices like Qigong, especially the one that you taught me with the Dragon's Way, is really helpful in connecting with greater universe or whatnot. And also that intuition, because that's usually what gets us in trouble, that disconnection. And not trusting ourselves, not understanding what those even sometimes visceral reactions might be that are telling us something about the situation. So I think doing practices like Qigong can really help that, and then in essence help people navigate the world.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because the other unique thing about Dragon's Way Qigong is that I teach it as a 6-week intensive, and there's a purpose to that. My teacher, Grandmaster Nanlu, what he saw is Qigong as a practice is incredibly powerful, but you're limited if you don't get all of the foundational wisdom that's behind the practice.
Mm-hmm.
But when you bring in that foundational wisdom, it amplifies your benefits to the practice. The way that I see the framework and the foundation of Chinese medicine is, it's not even really Chinese. It just happens to be that it was Chinese masters that through their practice were able to see those energy connections in the body and the energy connections with the consciousness of nature and the universe and how that all worked together.
Mm-hmm.
So I find for myself, and also for, I think students see it very quickly, as they start to open up to this wisdom, that it just makes sense. Like their body and their spirit already know all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just training the mind, opening the mind. So that's a big piece of what Dragon's Way Qigong is about,
Mm-hmm.
is about opening the consciousness and opening yourself to seeing how all these things are connected. So like you said, a visceral reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all have various different emotions, and that's normal and healthy to feel the whole gamut of them. But what does it mean if there's one that seems to get more stuck?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things we open to, because emotional, you know, everything has an emotional root.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when we look at worry, when we look at fear, when we look at anger, each of those are associated with the function of a different organ. So through Dragon's Way Qigong, we open to that understanding, but also open to, okay, now we have that understanding, how can we work with that? How can we play with that, with moving that emotion? So that's one of the things we do as, did you get to throw eggs at trees?
I did.
Yes.
I did with you. Yes, and I told my niece to do it.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right, that's
and,
right.
And she kind of looked at me weird, but because she deals with anger, and I said you have to transform it. And there's a lot of people come into my practice who deal with anger, and I've got a boxing bag in the basement.
Awesome.
But you know, I mentioned things like go take a boxing class. Yeah, the throw the eggs. I share that because it's like, and the vocal part.
Letting it be expressed through voice.
Because people need it.
Yes.
And, you know, and that's why, especially with anger, you know, that whole releasing, and you can talk more about all of that, but, you know, people say, oh, you know, you need to go out in the middle of nowhere and scream, and it's not always possible.
You can drive on 465 and
Oh,
put on Rage Against the Machine
there
or
you
whatever floats your boat and,
Yes.
and let out screams. That's another
and
way.
I've done it in the car too, not on 465, but that makes more sense because I really do not love driving, and I found as I've gotten older, and people drive me crazy. So, so now I think, but people need that. They need those healthy techniques.
Yes.
But there's also that, especially with, since we're talking about that emotion, but of not knowing how to release it.
Right.
And then it gets stuck.
Yeah, and the other thing that I see a lot of is that I see people that don't think they have anger, and they may not have to, or they may not know how to express it yet, but the tension. The tension that we hold ourselves under is like, it's the same frequency as what anger is, and it disrupts, well, I'll just open up to this, the organ that's associated with tension, frustration, anger, resentment, all of that is the liver. And our liver is what we need to be flexible in the world, what we need to have flow happen in our bodies and in our lives. The liver is the energy and essence of spring. So we all know, I mean, that is nature's biggest explosive creative show. So the liver is how we creatively express ourselves. It has to express itself. So these things that we're talking about are so helpful for moving anger, but just helping to tap into that creativity, because in order to tap into that, it has to move. And if you're pushing it down, it can't move, and then there's a whole slew of things that can happen, from disruptions in the menstrual cycle to high blood pressure to even stroke, when people aren't allowing that energy to move.
Yeah, completely agree. I see it in people all the time. I've had that experience, and I've shared a little bit with you, but for years I didn't even realize I was angry. And it wasn't until the past few years that I've learned to, well, it came to the surface, and I needed to figure out how to deal with it. And that's through my own self-exploration.
Yes.
And then so, you know, one of the reasons I took your Qigong course was to learn more about all that. And then in turn, I learned some more things. And so I found that with me personally, and what I share with everyone else, is that, you know, you're learning little things, you're releasing things. But the more you get in touch with the wisdom of your body, then the more you can transform some of these emotions.
Yes.
What I just had the other day, I get craniosacral since I'm pregnant, and with someone who's trained in pregnancy, and she did some intraoral work, because she said the first time, would you be open to that? And I said, well, actually the funny story is when I saw craniosacral being done on the horses, it was the oral work inside the mouth, and seeing how underneath the chin changed, like the fluid was draining. Then that made me feel like, oh, I should try that. And so she did it. And if anyone out there has had craniosacral, I don't know if you have.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's very gentle. But I felt like there were daggers in my low palate.
Wow.
It was probably at least, and then inside my cheeks, at least 30 years of tension, probably. I mean, that's what it felt like. And so I was like, this is obviously what I need, because I just held on to it for so long. And, so anyway, that's just an example, and people don't realize it.
How much they're holding.
Yeah, yeah. And it took me, I had like drainage for a few days.
Wow.
So, and I feel so much better after the initial drainage part, but it was sort of like, wow, I knew I held tension there, but I had no idea how much. And so it's very important for people to learn how to release that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I know Dragon's Way concentrates on the liver and gallbladder first, because, and you talked about, because it really is like the core. And kind of delve into that and the reasons behind that.
Okay. So we don't have the chart in front of us, but the 5-element understanding, the framework that I teach through Dragon's Way Qigong, it's all interconnected. So there's these beautiful relationships that go around the outside that are called parent-child, and then on the inside there are these cooperative relationships, which another eloquent thing that has expanded in my understanding. When I first learned about this, it was spoken of as control. In fact, in the original writings in the Dragon's Way, they use the word control, like wood controls earth, earth controls water. However, the expanded understanding is there's no such thing as control in nature. It's just very high level cooperation and partnership. So that has completely shifted how I talk about all those interrelationships. So when we speak about the liver, the reason why it is such an important foundational piece of Dragon's Way Qigong is because of what we were just speaking on, is that all of us, to live on this planet, things are moving incredibly fast. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, just being here with technology and everything's faster. So in order to keep up with that, the liver has to be strong. I mean, all of us have a little bit of tension to a lot of bit of tension that varies at different times because of the intensity of just being here. And then you pile on anything that might you might be digesting in your own life, stuck stuff from childhood or relationship things that are going on. So the liver, as I mentioned, is in charge of flexibility and flow. So when you think of that, that means at every level, like how flexible is your mind, in terms of being able to handle when something changes in your day or changes in your path. Can you open up and see different ways of seeing, possibilities instead of getting stuck? And flow, literally how things are flowing. How's the blood flowing in your body? How's the energy flowing in your body? Because according to the ancient, I think it's the Neijing, the Chinese principle is that if there is flow in the meridians, then what happens is that there is flow everywhere, and things may come and go, but they don't get stuck, and so you don't see disease. So the liver being that foundational organ responsible for flow, anything that gets stuck in the body, the liver's involved. Because it's not moving. So that's always one piece, and then you look at the other elements of what's coming up, and you can see the other organ relationships that became out of balance.
Sure, definitely. So since we're kind of focusing on the liver right now, what are a couple ways, besides signing up for your 6-week series, which I do recommend for those who are in Indianapolis, or a local Dragon's Way, finding a Dragon's Way
people
teacher.
all over the country.
So, when dealing with the liver, for example, and then we can go specifically in the summer since it's summer. What are a couple ways talked about throwing eggs at trees
Yes.
in the vocal part, but
Yes.
you know, that maybe people could take with them today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, knowing that we spoke about the liver being responsible for creative manifestation. So anything that makes you feel like things are flowing, anything that you feel is tapping into your creativity is going to support the liver. So if you like to write. I don't care. It doesn't have, don't get focused on an outcome. Just allow the words to come out. Drawing, painting, you know, music, all different, anything that taps into that creative flow. The other thing is string music. So when you think about, when I talked about the tension that can happen in the liver, so that the beautiful music of pulling on strings and releasing the tension and creating that vibrational frequency makes the liver very happy. So that includes piano, guitar, cello, violin, whatever you're feeling into. So bringing that music into your life can help to support the liver energy. And yes, absolutely, expression in terms of vocal. Some people, screaming is very scary. So I encourage them to play with, there's all different sorts of ways the liver stores that frequency in the body. It may be like an animal sound, it may be a grunt, it may be a hiss, all different sorts of things may want to come out. If you have kids or you observe kids, you can see that they do this all the time because they know, yes, they know how to express that energy. They don't have that inclination like, oh, this isn't okay, I should stuff this down. So all different sorts of sounds and movements come out of them, and that's their liver energy releasing.
Interesting.
Another very important piece is the liver resonates with wood. So when I say wood, I don't just mean trees, I mean all things that are living and growing. So, you know, even if you have a stressful work environment, putting a plant near your computer and just gazing at it every once in a while, that supports and nourishes your liver energy. Going out for a walk outside, being amongst the trees, being amongst the plants, because that they resonate completely with the energy of wood, can help to support.
Yeah, no, and I think that's important anyway. I'm huge about going into the woods and nature and everything. Even though I live in the city and I love it, I have to get out to a state park or forest at least once a week. Luckily, we have one 20 minutes away, but I would really like to live where I could just walk there.
Yeah.
But it really does change your state and the feet in the grass and all those sort of things. And people discount that, especially when we get in our frenzied state. But nature, that just natural world is really important.
Right, because that world is us.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so if you think of, if there's something that has got, I see this in my own kids most dramatically, like if they're really bent out of shape about something and they're acting crazy, I just know, like, I literally sometimes will shove them outside and it's like, whoop, everything changes. Because nature's just like, oh yeah, you may not be able to contain that within your body right now, but I feel that, I know this, I can move this and like easy peasy, no problem.
Yeah.
Because the earth and the wood and all the elements together, that also is our organs and their relationships. And so that frequency, you can feel, it's literally energetic healing to be amongst the elements in that way. And the more, to go back again to Qigong, the more that you're tuned in to your body and the more things are flowing, the more you can receive when you do a practice of just, you know, taking a walk in nature and being amongst the trees. Like they're literally trying to tell us stuff, but we don't know how to hear.
Yeah.
Or we're a little too stuck and distracted.
Yes. Well, especially I have a big pet peeve of people taking their phones into the forest.
Yeah.
So I don't even, you know, I usually check in on my phone before or after. But yeah, I just, unless you're going to take a picture or something.
Right.
But being on your phone, I have a big pet peeve because you're still disconnected.
Right.
You're still distracted. So just a little PSA that I have a big pet peeve about that. And if you're talking on your phone while you're hiking, I have an even bigger pet peeve about that. So since it's summertime, let's talk about Chinese medicine related to the summer.
Yeah, summer. So I love actually using, to go back to trees, because one of the things that trees show us is they show us how to flexibly flow through all the seasons with grace and ease. So when we think about, the transition, think about winter. Stark, everything is deep down in the earth. And then when with the Lunar New Year, the energy starts to move slowly up from the roots into the branches. And then, of course, once spring arrives, that's the big explosion, the huge transformation where things are budding and the leaves are showing. So when we get to summer, it's like, okay, mission accomplished. It's time to relax. So I view summer and winter as being mirrors. So winter, it's very obvious that it's telling us to chill out, quite literally. You need to conserve. Everything in nature is trying to hibernate, except us, going against nature. Summer is the same. In a different way, summer wants us to just be peaceful. Summer is the season of the heart. So the heart in Chinese medicine, sometimes they talk about it as being like a king, but I think the translation is more of like a spiritual leader. The heart is what connects us to spirit. Our spirit and the spirit of the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. It's through the heart. So the heart looks at everything that's happening in the body and it's just like, it's all good. I don't care. I mean, yep, you've got a migraine headache and you got IBS and you had a tough day. It's okay. The heart wants you to be at peace with everything as it is as you're going through the process. All the other organs have to do the nitty-gritty, dirty work of trying to figure it out. So when we get to the point where there's actually established heart disease, you see energy imbalances that have gotten to a very significant level in every single other organ, because all those other organs will do everything they can to try to protect the heart from being impacted. So, yeah, the story with summer, the story with the heart is just like this heat. I mean, the heat is like trying to tell us to just take it, chill out in a different way. Chill out. Stop trying to get out there and do stuff. Lay in a hammock.
Yeah.
Float in a lake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't try to, no big accomplishments and goals. I mean, you know what it feels like if you go against that. It starts to feel like, like you feel tired and nauseous. And it's just like, go easy.
Doesn't laying in a hammock or being on the lake just sound so much better?
Yes.
And it's amazing how many people don't take that time and do that.
Right. So it literally creates heart problems. Like you're going against the nature of the heart when you're not allowing yourself to have periods. I'm not saying it has to be all the time, but periods of time where you're just pieced out and resting. Yeah. But also it is about spirit. So the heart wants you to be aligned with your spirit. So whatever that means for you in terms of expressing your spirit through your life, through your work. So if there's something that's gotten stuck and you feel like you're not able to fully express yourself, it can start to show through the heart as well.
Sure, definitely. Yeah, no, I think it's important because I found myself as I learned more about Chinese medicine or Eastern medicine in general, seeing where I was not balanced with each season. I remember years ago in the summer, like I didn't want to wear bright color, like I was just getting introduced to how to start syncing with the season. And that feeling of joy or connection with the heart, I didn't feel at all. And I find, and now, birth is transformational too, since I'm expecting a child, but through my own work over the years, I feel like it's kind of prepared me, and then had some things in the spring, like for the summer. I told you before we started chatting, like I've been slowing down, and I'm a workaholic. So I've been, I wouldn't say I'm just trying to change it. Over the years, I've tried to shift that. And especially now that a baby's coming, I'm really like, what are my priorities? And connecting to the heart center. So I feel with the heat, even though I'm very hot and sometimes very sweaty and like want to be in front of the AC or fan or in water, but I found, and like I said, I was telling you before we started recording, just I've been slowing down. I've been making sure I have days off, and I feel like I get so much done. Not in the sense of work, but like I'm cooking more, those sort of things done for me in my personal life, as well as keeping up with work, and nothing's really going to the wayside. It's just like I'm more at ease.
That's so good.
Yeah, and so I think it's important that, people, whether it's just they're starting to do little shifts, but to start syncing up with the seasons, and because I know it's been transformational for me.
Yes.
And especially seeing it, and I'm the type A, go, go, go kind of person, but that was always a coping mechanism for me. And I've learned, and I still, that's still part of me, so I just have to watch myself going into that, or overscheduling my calendar. When we talked about boundaries earlier,
Yes.
I'm very big at saying no, and it's amazing how many people I have to say no to now. And it's not because I don't want to hang out, it's that I really have to protect my time. And so, but I think as people start to sync with the seasons, and I'm living proof of that, it really is something that is transformational.
Yes.
And helpful, and then you're not dealing with so much. It doesn't mean you're not dealing with anything.
Right.
But you're not dealing with a lot of the pain or illness or whatnot, because you're starting to be in that flow.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's really important.
Beautifully said. Yeah, and again, Dragon's Way Qigong, the beauty of that is one of the things I want to pass on to people in my classes is opening to the consciousness and the wisdom of the seasons, because again, they're happening to you whether you want to admit it or not. So you can choose to be in the flow of that, and you can get great benefits from that in terms of feeling better and being able to accomplish more in the right time and space, or you can suffer.
Yeah, right? Yeah, when we're always fighting against it.
Yeah, when you're fighting against it, you're literally fighting against nature, and then it's going to show up.
Yeah, I remember you saying, talking about the heat now, but even in the winter, I can't remember exactly what was happening, but it was just sort of like your statement was, well, Mother Nature is working to bring things back to balance. It may seem out of balance because it's not like last spring or last winter or last summer, but Mother Nature is working to bring things back to balance, and we have to go with that flow. Right. I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it was something like that. And I really appreciated that, because that's a perspective, especially when you hear people, oh, it's so hot. Yeah. Which I'm that person too right now, but or oh, it's so windy, or oh, it's so cold, or oh, it's so, whatever. Why this wasn't, we didn't have. I think it might have been because our springs have kind of almost been like they've been non-existent. We had, and just really we've had a lot more winter, blustery kind of stuff for a longer period of time. And someone was making a comment about that, and you're like, well, Mother Nature's just trying to get back into balance.
Right. So when you think about, and it's really good to look at the reflection on the bigger picture, and then to bring that into home to you.
Sure.
So in the big picture, Mother Nature knows what she's doing. She's got all these different tools she can play with in terms of shifting temperatures and bringing in wind and bringing in lightning and thunder and bringing in, colder temperatures, hotter temperatures. So it's like she's cooking. She's cooking in her kitchen because she's trying to create a greater state of balance and harmony. Now that's just on planet Earth. Yeah. And if you really want to go big, you have to realize that what's happening in the energies on planet Earth is because of what's happening in the greater universe. And so Earth has to dance and play an energetic response to all of that. Now that impacts us, and we're playing that game all the time. So to speak to the seasons and the elements as you go deeper and deeper into the Dragon's Way Qigong practice and the wisdom behind it, you start to see, like, even though it might be summer, you may be in a period of winter. I've had some patients lately that I've seen, I'm like, so you're in a winter period, you need to really conserve your energy. Things are really low, and you've got to tap into all that, the kidneys, the season of winter, everything you can do to nurture that kidney, because that's where you're at right now. The rest of the planet may not be reflecting that, but that's where you're at. So because we embody all of those elements within us.
Sure, definitely. Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that's key to why individuals need to discover some of these and practice, whether it's Qigong or other things, and because that's the only way you get in tune. You can't just, you can read about it, and that's helpful too, but you have to actually practice and start to feel it in your body, and then you understand the shifts. And I always talk about having the toolbox and taking a tool out as you need it, because when you start to understand your body and you start to go, well, this is what's happening here, it's because something's out of balance, but then you might have all those tools now that you're in tune.
Exactly.
To come back into balance. Because it's not necessarily just waving a magic wand, because it's always shifting and changing. And so I think it's important to do things like Qigong and just bring you back into your body, back into balance.
Right. Well, and the truth is that each one of us is our own healer. It's so when my patients see me, it isn't that I'm doing something for them. I'm just kind of giving a little nudge to wake them up to connect into that.
I know exactly what that is.
And there's so, in terms of what the toolbox of tools is, it's like, look, I've got these tools, but I'll tell you what, you're going to know, you're going to open up to even more. So I can tell you from the outside what I can see, but you never know. It could just be like, I had someone come in the other day, and she was like, the only thing I need is to listen. I need to go on the highway and put on Stone Temple Pilots and just like really loud and just drive fast. And that's all I need right now for healing. I'm like, well, then get out of here. Why are you here? Because that's what you need. I mean, it sounds crazy, but we know exactly what we need. We know what foods we need, what we need to drink, how much we need to drink, what elements. So the more that you open up to that and seeing that you are your own healer, it's just, there's no limits to what that means.
No, and I'm a big proponent of that, because they only can see us for so many times, and they have to take that ownership at some point. And encourage everyone to take that ownership, because you do need guidance. I mean, sometimes we have no idea, and it's very helpful to have guidance. But or learn new tools and new ways or practices. But at the end of the day, it's all about tuning in and knowing what you want, and then or need, and then realizing that if you're craving something, there might be a deficiency in something, or that sort of thing, and because your body's telling you something. And so if you start listening, you can really, be your own healer. And that's one of the reasons I have this podcast, is to share different modalities and different practitioners that can be guides, because there's so many things out there. And I believe in that integrative approach, so people can use this or this and have this support on their journey to healing. But at the end of the day, it's all about connecting and remembering who they are. And these are just ways to do that, because it does take time. It's not an overnight sensation sort of thing. So any other thoughts about the Qigong, Chinese medicine you want to share, and before we dive into kind of what you're doing and what you're a part of for the fall?
I would say the only thing I would say is that it's completely transformed my life, which is why I'm so passionate about it. I am the mother of 4, ages 3 to 14. I just got a new puppy, and I have 3 cats, and I have a crazy husband. Sorry, Bob. So, to do this amazing dance of life that I so crave and love, with, being able to tap into infinite, this practice is just, it knocks the socks off of it. It's just so much fun. Like, I share often in my class, like there's so many practical things that will come to me where I feel really stuck about something, and I just barely open into my practice, and it's like I know immediately what it is I need to do. Something that happened in my house that needs to be fixed. The other day, my daughter I just dropped her off at camp. Couldn't find a one-piece bathing suit anywhere. She's 14, so we're a little bit particular on this. And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. We can't get anything from Amazon in time. And I dropped into practice, and I saw Dick's Sporting Goods. I sent her out to Dick's Sporting Goods, and sure enough, oh my gosh, they had everything I needed, and I needed a jacket, and I needed this. I'm like, there you go. That's why I practice Qigong. That's one of the reasons.
That's one of the reasons, so we can find your one-piece bathing suit.
Exactly.
But it provides clarity.
Yes.
And
that kind of information's always there. It's just that, in the moment of being like, and I got the patient coming, I can't figure this out for you, and I can't, and it's just like that all disappears, and the answer's like, see?
Well, and that speaks to the consistency of practice as well, because it's building, you build that clarity and that being able to drop in and get in tune much quicker with a consistency of practice.
Exactly.
And the reason I'm saying that is because to all my clients out there who I've worked with, and everyone who's listening, it's all about, it's like athletic training in a sense. And whether meditation, the Qigong practice, the physical yoga practice, all of these different practices, it's the actual consistency in them. Even if it's not daily, it's 5 days a week.
Right.
Because you're retraining and you're getting in tune, and if you're just doing it once in a while and you're mixing it up all the time, and then you're not actually getting all of the benefits that are possible.
Right. It's like you're just sampling from a buffet. And you can get a little bit of a benefit, but going deep into it can be, that's where the transformation happens.
Yep, and whatever calls to you.
Exactly.
But going deep into that.
Yeah, the concept that my teacher will use is quality and quantity. It's like, really, you need both.
Yeah, that's true. Totally true.
Yeah, and it's, you can't always have both, but you try to do your best.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I'm really important about when I teach class is like, this is not meant to stress you out. This is, I'm introducing you to a practice that I want you to just, you take it and run. And you play with it and integrate it creatively any which way you can. I mean, so I have one very devoted student who was practicing in elevators, and then one day the staff were like, we can see you. She was doing a liver moving exercise in the elevator where she was shaking, and she's like, good.
Good, yeah. Just being herself, doing her thing, and then everybody's curious.
Taking that pause in the elevator to move her energy. So it's like, good for you.
That's good, because we need that throughout the day.
Yes.
Yes, because most of the time we're not moving at all.
Right.
Not to mention our energetic body. And so it's important to do that during the workday as well.
Absolutely.
Good. So let's talk about this fall and what's going on in Indianapolis, and just explain to our audience what.
Yes. Yeah. So since we've been focusing on it so much, before I launch into some of the other things that are going on, Dragon's Way Qigong, the 6-week intensive, will begin September 17th, which is a Tuesday. And that will be at 10:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. So 2 classes in one day. You can choose which one, 6 consecutive weeks. So that's happening. And then another really awesome thing is brewing, and it's called Soul Unleashed.
Which I love that name.
A self-care revolution. So r/evolution. So just to sum it up, the idea is that creating a container, so over a 3-week period where we'll have multiple different classes, and all of these classes are under the same vision and message. So it's multiple different practitioners that are presenting at 2 different spaces under this one message of Soul Unleashed. Some of the ways we've looked at this is it's like a 3-week spiritual journey. It's like a spiritual staycation. So you're not technically going on a retreat somewhere, but it is like a retreat. So we're really encouraging people to tap into all the different offerings and to look at it as, like we were talking about, depth, as not just like I'm going to sample, but to start at the beginning and then, pick and choose what you want to do and take it to a deeper level, beyond just like I'm doing 1 class a week of Koya, for instance. It's going to begin with the last new moon in August on the 30th, and it's going to close with the autumnal equinox on Monday, September 23rd. So there's going to be a lot of, we haven't gotten the event page and stuff out about this yet, but there'll be an opening ceremony that's all about intention and a closing ceremony that Susan Connor's going to lead, and I don't know what she's going to dream up, but it will be awesome. And lots of stuff in between. I, in particular, am going to be teaching 2 classes in addition to 3 in addition to Dragon's Way Qigong during that time frame. The first of which, gotta check my own calendar because there's so much going on, is on September 4th from 6 to 8.
Okay.
And that is going to be on the 4 energy gates. So the 4 energy gates are acupressure exercises. And this concept is what we've been talking about tapping into the meridian system, but this is specifically through doing acupressure on yourself. These 4 points essentially will end up covering the whole body. So I'm going to go deep into actually what they're doing energetically, but also kind of the emotional, spiritual foundation of the practice. I call them a healing habit. So when you were talking about, okay, throughout like your work day, when you may not have a 20-minute chunk of time to do a good solid Qigong practice, what else can I do to keep the energy moving and flowing through my meridians? The gates are a great answer to that, because there's something you can do them all together, all 4 of them, or it's like you can split them up and do them here, there, and everywhere. They also become like a additional toolbox. Like let's say you're having a little tightness in your chest. There's an exercise you can do to open the chest. If your low back is hurting, there's an exercise you can do to open the low back. So it gives you an energetic tool to support the physical symptoms that are going on and helping them to move on along.
Good. Yeah.
So that's the 4th. And then on the 14th, I am going to be teaching a class called The Animal in Your Heart, which is how the Chinese refer to the Chinese zodiac. And I've never taught this before, but I'm so excited because it's another like side passion of mine that I think really was birthed from my own experience. When I first met my teacher 10 years ago, I was in his office one day, and I don't know what I was whining about, but he took one look at me, and he keeps the zodiac chart in his desk. And he just looked me right in the eye and he goes, "You're a dragon and you're acting like a rabbit." And not to say that rabbits out there, you have your strength, but for me, I was way against spirit. And it was such a huge wake-up call for me, and I could definitely feel myself start to open up at another level. So through my own growth of transforming from a rabbit into the fire dragon that I am, and then having these 4 children, the animal that you're born into, it is your spirit. It is your framework for connecting into the world. So diving into the zodiac can give you really good insight into who you are and how to tap into that, and also who all the people around you are, your partner, your children, people that you work with, your parents. It can help give you a little different insight into how they see the world.
Yeah, I think that is important. We looked at that when I was at your place.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the year of the pig, right?
This is the year of the Earth Pig.
Pig. Yes. So I'm going to have an Earth Pig baby.
You're going to have an Earth Pig baby.
And I believe I was near the monkey.
Okay. Yes. 1980?
1980.
Yes. Metal monkey.
Now everybody knows my age.
Sorry.
Metal.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Be proud.
I'm very proud. I love my 30s going on 40. I mean, I really do. Because I'm so much wiser and healthier and everything. So, no, I really don't care about that. But yes, metal monkey. So we've got to explore that more.
And I'm going to talk about how the element shifts, how the animal shows up, because a fire monkey, which I have one at home.
I remember the year
she's the character, is very different than a metal monkey.
Yeah.
They've got monkey characteristics, but the essence and the way they show up is a little bit different. So
yes, I can only imagine.
So I'm going to talk about the elemental personalities and how that influences, and then each of the animals, and it's going to be so much fun, because it's such a passion of me.
Well, I'm due right about then, so I'm not sure if I can take the class.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be amazing.
Yeah.
And so we'll make sure to link to your website on the show notes.
Yes.
And then once any information's out on Soul Unleashed, right?
Yes.
This whole program.
Yes.
That's happening in Indianapolis. We'll get links.
Yeah, so it's going to be at Indie Healing Center, MySpace, and also at the Playful Soul.
Okay, perfect. I figured it was.
So,
great.
Between those 2 spaces.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So we'll get all that information out
Awesome.
and share as well. So, well, I appreciate you being on today,
Yeah,
Melissa.
it was
I
awesome.
loved it. I love the conversation. I hope everyone enjoyed it and learned some things. And we'll link to your website, Dragon's Way, Playful Soul for the Soul Unleashed, and Indie Healing Center and everything. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to share?
Pregnancy.
Okay. Let's talk for a second.
Just for a second. I won't go too deep.
That's okay, because we could have a whole nother conversation.
We could have a whole nother conversation. But just in general, because I have 4 kids born under 4 very different energetic, spiritual circumstances. My 4th being my wisest and most energetically open place. So, all I can say is mamas, any future mamas, anybody who is pregnant or is thinking about becoming pregnant, take a look at my website and just get a little insight into, you are literally downloading your baby during the time of pregnancy, downloading them with their chi foundation and, impacting their spirit through everything that you're taking in. So, not just the food you eat, but the places you go, the kind of experiences you're having. Alyssa has blessed this baby with Dragon's Way Qigong. So that is something that is safe to do during pregnancy with the exception, and Koya, that's right, with the exception of one of the movements. We can talk specifically for anyone who needs to know. But to open yourself up to that. And anything that you heal in yourself during pregnancy, that baby gets that wisdom. So just a really powerful time. Also, once the baby's born, so that, again, to talk to what we talk about, fast. Most people don't take a lot of time. Maybe they've got a whole bunch of kids at home, other obligations, and the energetic time after you deliver a baby is one of the greatest shifts that you will ever go through in your entire life. To go from literally you've been supporting this other life, the energy and the blood and everything that moves. So a huge time to be tuned in and be conservative as you can possibly be. With people that are my patients, I make sure that they're taking herbs and doing acupressure if they can tolerate doing Qigong, but really taking it easy. So just encouraging people to tap into that wisdom, because we tend to just say, no, just keep going. And I see a lot of women now, and the things that are set up physically and energetically, that's when it started. After they had their baby and they just zipped on through, and their liver energy was so depleted, and then something came in and so.
Yeah, we could totally have a whole other conversation about that. Yeah, because there is a lot that happens, I am very in tune with that, and I have to always watch my traditional self of go and slowing down, and that's why it's been so great for me and clearing my schedule. But also it's a little like, wow, I'm not going to have, well, in my head, anything to do. I'll have plenty to do. But it's just sort of like, I have no idea. It's the unknown.
Yes.
And I want to make sure that what I'm doing, and that's why I take care of myself through what I eat and dancing and Qigong and meditation and yoga and all of that. Because I
Lucky
know,
girl.
It's for her,
and
it's for me, of course, but it's for her, and how much of an impact it will have on her. So, maybe we'll talk more about pregnancy on another episode. All right,
a little teaser.
Yeah, just a little teaser, all kinds of stuff. Well, thanks, Melissa. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
So, I want to hear from all of you out there. What did you think of today's topic and conversation? Did you love it? So find me on Instagram or Facebook under Alyssa Finnig and direct message me. Or better yet, join the Wild Wisdom Collective group on Facebook. It's a free group. Chime in on the discussion, and you can just search in groups. You'll find us on there. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts and insight about today's discussion, and also what else you'd love to hear about. And if you do love what you're hearing, take a moment on your smartphone, click the button to subscribe, and write us a review so that we can continue sharing this with more and more women out there. See you next week at the same time with another incredible guest. Wild blessings.